built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production.
Jessica Crawford with Apex Construction Group, Business and Community Relations Manager.
I'm Bob Mundt. I'm the President and CEO of the Sioux Falls Development Foundation.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming.
Absolutely.
You have been very busy. So I want to hear about your journey with the Development Foundation, like how long you've been there.
Sure.
What it looks like now compared to maybe when you started. Because you, like I said, you've been very busy. You've been doing a lot.
Yeah.
I've known you for, I think, a couple years now, maybe through some mutual friends, breakfast club. So I think that's kind of where I started to get to know you.
Sure.
But that's also when I started to learn a little bit more about the Development Foundation, because you would share like kind of what's going on, and you, it's almost like you have like tidbits before anyone else in the community knows about it, which is kind of nice. Not that you were like spilling secrets, but share a little bit just about your journey at Development Foundation.
Happy to, yeah. I was hired in July of 2018. I came in shortly after the Development Foundation had acquired Foundation Park, which was the first mega park in South Dakota, or is the first and only mega park in South Dakota.
Quick question. What qualifies a mega park?
Anything over 200 acres.
And Foundation Park is?
Currently at that time, it's 850 acres. Now it's a little over 1,000.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of ground, and it's classified as a mega park because they typically look at larger types of industries going there. So it's zoned heavy industry for companies like CJ Foods and companies like Smithfield and those types of things. But really, our role looking at lots larger than 20 acres. So when you get lots larger than 20 acres, usually you're looking at a fairly large either distribution or manufacturing facility.
So, I mean, you've had to kind of do, in a sense, like recruitment to fill those spots, right? Yeah. That's part of what you do.
Yeah.
And so you're probably looking nationally. So, I mean, there is a business from T, right, that moved into Foundation Park. Right. So that's local and that's really awesome. But everyone else, I mean, you kind of recruited them to come here. You're like, we got a lot of land. There's space for you. There's the utilities. We have it ready to go. Yeah. Amazon, I'm sure that was a huge win. You said CJ Foods or CJ Schwann's. Who else is out there?
Well, so that was kind of my role when I came in, was to really market and sell that mega park. Once they had expended all the money to buy the land and develop it, our charge then was to really bring people to it. And we target companies from outside the Sioux Falls area, but we also have companies inside the Sioux Falls area that just have run out of land, have run out of space in their current facility and need more ground to build. And so we have companies out there right now. Lineage Logistics, for example, used to be wind chill, cold storage. Mm-hmm. We have Nordica, which is a company that was here before that, but they needed more space, and so they moved out. Muth Electric, Teshier, some of those already have facilities here in Sioux Falls. It's just that they ran out of space and needed more room. Mm-hmm. So we work with those local companies also to grow and expand in areas that where they need more property. And then we also work with national brokers, site selectors, and those types of things to bring in companies like Amazon, like CJ Schwann's, and others.
So you said you work with brokers,
right.
National brokers on that. So it's not just like all falling on your shoulders.
No,
like, I'm going to call up Amazon and see if they want to come out here.
Yeah, most of our work is actually through brokers. Very rarely do we get direct calls from companies saying, hey, we want to locate here. It's usually through...
Which, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, it would be.
Although at the same time, you kind of want to vet them a little bit too. Like, what kind of jobs do you want to create? You want to have maybe some more of those like executive jobs.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're doing manufacturing or something like that, you're going to have some of that automation and then some of that line work. Yeah. But ultimately, you do want to be creating a little bit more of the C-suite type of jobs too, from what I understand.
And back in the day, when I first started in this position, there was a lot of phone calling and visiting cities and visiting companies and things like that. But now with all of your information online, most of that is done prior to them even contacting you. So by the time they contact you, you may be one of 5 communities that they're looking at, and they're just kind of vetting you to make sure that this would be a right place for them. And then you get into the competitive process of, what ground do you have, what's the price of the ground, what incentives you have to offer them to move there, et cetera. And so you start playing that economic development game, and that's where you deal with sometimes site selectors and brokers who are working on behalf of the company.
Yeah.
And so you may not know the company that you're working with until the very end when they actually pick you. Or you get
They're like, surprise, it's us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here it is. But if you do your homework, you can kind of figure it out as to who it is, and just by what their requirements are for a building, what their location requirements are for a building, if they need rail, those types of things. And so you can kind of reduce that down to at least the type of industry that you're working from. Amazon, for example, so many trucks a day, there was only about, maybe 8 or 10 companies that it could be.
Yeah.
And so we kind of knew a little bit about who it was, but not for sure until the last minute.
So you're kind of vetting each other, right? Like the company is vetting us as a community, and then vice versa. Do we want this company to come in here? So if they're like, let's say Amazon was looking at 5 communities, what do you think set our community apart from others that they were looking at where they're like, no, Sioux Falls is a really great fit for us? I mean, I can talk about all kinds of things that I love about our community. It's not just Sioux Falls, it's like the greater Sioux Falls, right? In South Dakota in general. But have you gotten feedback from these companies like, hey, we just want you to know we went with you and here's what we liked about Sioux Falls or whatever?
Well, first of all, we had available land that was under our control. Again, going back to the purpose of Foundation Park, right? To attract those types of companies here. So they knew we had the land. Our land was reasonably priced. We were at the intersection of 2 interstates, which for a distribution company like Amazon is huge. We had rail service if they needed that in the end. And we had an available workforce that was ready, willing, and able to go to work. And so those were a couple of the things that I think they looked at and that we really scored high on.
Mm-hmm. What about like amenities of Sioux Falls, or just like would that employee base feel at home here? Like were any of those things kind of
that was
brought up quality of life?
It was almost secondary with like Amazon, but with CJ Schwann's, where they're bringing in a lot of their upper level management people to help run the plant and things like that, where they're going to be relocating. They look a lot at quality of life. What's the housing quality that people would be coming into? What are the extracurricular activities? What are your arts and cultural amenities? What are your recreational amenities and those types of things? What's really there for our people if we're going to move them from Cleveland, right? What are they going to be moving into in Sioux Falls, and what's it like to live in Sioux Falls? Because that's really what they have to sell their employees on, or their, let's say, C-suite employees on, is would you and your family be comfortable in Sioux Falls?
So is that something that you also do? Like, do you kind of take them around Sioux Falls, like show them downtown, different housing developments, school districts? I mean, do you do all that too?
Yeah, that's part of kind of that final phase, if you will, of their site selection, where they may bring in people from their HR department. They may bring in people from kind of their corporate communications department, and we'll spend a couple of days showing them around Sioux Falls, maybe even meeting with our school system, meeting with some of our city leaders, whether they're council members or Parks and Rec department, or just general business people here in town, just so that people can get a feel for what is it like to live here in Sioux Falls. We may hook them up for dinner some night with 5 or 6 of our community people that can talk about the different amenities of Sioux Falls. And so they have a really good overview of what Sioux Falls is. Most of the time we try to find someone who has moved here from outside of Sioux Falls, who has had the experience that they will have, so that they can be truly honest with, what were the issues that when you moved here with the family, what were the issues that you that you came upon? How did you solve those issues, and how did the community help you solve those issues?
Yeah. So you kind of almost have like a Rolodex of people like in your back pocket. Like, here's some people in our community I want to introduce.
Yeah. And we work with the chamber too on that. Again, they've got the young professionals group. And so typically we'll meet with the young professionals group so that they can see that any young families that they have moving into town, for example, are going to be in good company, right? And have that kind of thing. And so really just trying to make them comfortable with what amenities do we have here to make their employees comfortable.
Yeah, so you are in the same building as the chamber and Forward Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
You kind of all work together a little bit.
Yeah.
Even on your website, I'm pretty sure you have all 3 logos on it. Yeah, so I would imagine, especially with Forward Sioux Falls, just they're heavy in that development piece of it, just in the community. I mean, you're probably working quite a bit hand in hand with them. I would say.
I mean, Forward Sioux Falls is really just the fundraising arm of us, and so we in the chamber are partially funded by the funds that are raised through Forward Sioux Falls. Also in that building is Experience Sioux Falls, so the Convention Visitors Bureau is in there as well, as a sports authority is there as well. So it's kind of commerce center. That's a good name for that particular building because that's really what we are. And so we work with them in a number of different areas, as I mentioned before, but we really try to work together. Forward Sioux Falls is really the program, the Joint Venture Management Committee that really kind of governs that, really requires us to work together.
Yeah.
And our funding depends on it. I mean, if we were to ever kind of venture off into doing something, that they didn't approve of, for example, didn't get along with each other, they would step in pretty quickly and make sure that we change that. And I think that's kind of the secret sauce of what makes Sioux Falls special is that we all work together for the benefit of all of us. And so we're not at odds, with the chamber. We're not at odds with the CVB. We certainly have disagreements, but we work those out and make sure that, we get to what we need to in the end.
Yeah, I mean, you all have the same end goal, right? You want to grow our community in a way that makes sense.
Right.
So this is a big job, Bob. How do you think you were prepared? Like, what set you up to fill this role?
Yeah,
as far as, I mean, like your background, right? Like, what led up to this? Were you prepared for it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been doing this kind of stuff for 40 years plus. And so I started actually in college. I got an internship. I went to school at University of Northern Iowa. I got an internship at the Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, kind of finding out what chambers do. I had no clue what chambers and economic development groups did. And so I interned there in a summer, and a position came open there, and they asked me if I wanted to kind of go on the extended plan for my education and come to work full time for them, and then finish my education while I was working for them. So I chose to do that. So it took me 5 years to kind of get through college, and then I started in Sioux City, Iowa, kind of doing the same thing that I'm doing now, but as part of a chamber economic development combination. And from there, I actually went up to Brookings, South Dakota, and I worked in Brookings, kind of doing the same thing in Brookings for 5 years. And then I went down to Council Bluffs, Omaha, and I spent about 23 years down in Omaha, Council Bluffs. And that's really what helped me cut my teeth on some of this big stuff is in economic development and dealing with big companies and dealing with the political environment that it all operates in and those types of things. And so learned a lot of really valuable business lessons doing that. And then in 2018, came up here and I was able to lead the effort and really apply all the things that I've learned over the past 30-some years to do that.
So you've kind of been like skating around Sioux Falls a little bit. You were in Iowa, Nebraska, and then Brookings, you said too.
Yeah. And I grew up right across the river between Larchwood and Inwood. So I was kind of a Northwest Iowa kid. I spent a lot of time in Sioux Falls. As a kid, my family, different members of my family worked in Sioux Falls. My father and my grandfather worked at John Morrell's. So again, I knew Sioux Falls, but I had been away from it for a while, coming back to visit family and things like that. So I saw the growth of Sioux Falls, and I knew it was a very progressive community. And so when I got the opportunity to live and work here, I jumped on that right away because I knew that this was the type of community that I wanted to be in.
Yeah. Do you feel like you kind of had your sights on it for a while, or were you really happy just to stay in the Omaha Council Bluffs area?
At the time, I was happy to stay in kind of Omaha Council Bluffs because I raised my family there, and I wanted my kids to have a place to say, hey, I grew up in, right, Omaha Council Bluffs. And so we kind of made that commitment, well, my wife and I. And so, but once the kids got through high school, once they started into college, we kind of made the decision that it was time for us to maybe look at something different. I had kind of done everything I could do down there, and so I just felt a need to do something different. So this job came available. I don't know. I looked at it and I said, I can really see myself working there. So that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun to come back because I was thinking about that too as you were talking, like, where do you say, like, you're from or where's home?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I was born in Sioux Falls, but then we kind of like moved away and came back 3 or 4 different times. And we didn't usually go more than probably 2-3 hours away. We did live in Southern California for a little bit, but I still call Sioux Falls home because we just kept coming back to it. We did come back to stay when I was a junior in high school, and have been here for the most part ever since. But so I would say, yeah, that's where I'm from. That's my home. So, I mean,
I told everybody I was from Sioux Falls if they asked, just because no one knows where Inwood is.
Yeah.
So I said I'm from Sioux Falls.
I know where it is. My mom is a Northwest Iowa girl. So,
but I would say that, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, we know Sioux Falls." And again, good reputation. Had some great, visits up here with some of the other chambers that I was with to kind of do the best practice thing. Where you come up here and watch the chamber and the economic development group with best practices. And so, Sioux Falls was kind of that area where people look to kind of see how do they do things right. And Forward Sioux Falls was one of those examples. That's been going, as you know, for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
And it's a model for other communities, taking a look at how it functions, how it operates, why it's been so successful. And quite honestly, I think that's why Sioux Falls has been successful, because of that program. And everything is held together, it's planned, it's organized, people are accountable for different parts of the plan. And over each 5-year session, it reproves itself in that it accomplishes those things because we're held to standards and we're held to accountability of what we said we were going to do and what we actually do, because we have to go out and sell that in the next campaign to say, look, we said we were going to do this.
We did it.
We did it. And now we say we're going to do this. And because we've got a good track record, people are pretty willing to contribute to that because they want to be part of that success.
Yeah, because I mean, if I was told, like, hey, Jess, you're putting forth some funding towards this project for Sioux Falls, we're going to get it done, or at least have it started within 5 years, and then it's like maybe it kept, like, maybe the council is kicking the can on it or whatever reason, and it wasn't even like in the pipeline, I would be like, well, why would I keep giving money? Right. If they're not going to stand by their word. So I think that's really a testament for Sioux Falls, and you're kind of like helping execute it too.
Yeah.
So when you started in 2018, did we have those 800 acres, or did the Development Foundation have them?
The Development Foundation owned 820 acres. They had started with some of the infrastructure there, and they had really 2 tenants. They had Windchill, which is now Lineage, and they had Nordica warehousing. And so those were 2 base tenants that we had. But then again, my role was to work with my team at the Development Foundation and make sure that we were recruiting more companies in, that we were working with existing companies if they needed expansion space. And at that time also, when I came in, they had made a decision in the previous Forward Sioux Falls campaign that since the Development Foundation was kind of doing all this recruiting and creating all these jobs and tax base, that we also needed to be responsible for workforce development and recruitment. And so we took that on and we added a whole workforce and talent development division within the Development Foundation. Denise Gazzetta runs that. So part of our job, probably half, if not more than what we do, is to help recruit people to this community. So we work a lot with tech schools and universities or high schools to make sure that we continue to put people and talent into that pipeline so that our employers have people to hire when they're creating all these jobs.
Yeah. So can you tell me about your team?
Yeah.
What it all consists of?
Yeah, I mean, we have a vice president for economic development, a vice president for workforce development. Dean Diesick runs our economic development division, and Denise Gazzetta runs our talent and workforce. We actually share a CFO with the chamber, so we hire Corey Buck, and then he does our books, he does all of our accounting, and all of the chamber's accounting, sports authority. So it's kind of a joint position that we share. Mike Gray is our special projects director. Mike is kind of a jack of all trades. We put Mike into a lot of different roles because he's good at that, and he's very pays attention to detail, those types of things. We have Leah Fries. Leah is our communications, marketing, and digital person, and so she handles all of that area. Karen Ruland does all of our communications and research and publications and those types of things. And then we have Katie Giebauer, and Katie is kind of our project coordinator, office administrator. So between all of us, we get the work done, and we just, have a great time doing it.
Yeah, it was kind of lean and mean. It's not, you don't need a lot of people, but I think, because you're working in collaboration with the chamber and Forward Sioux Falls and Experience Sioux Falls, you kind of support each other. And it sounds like, you've got a really great thing going with that team. So when did the Development Foundation start?
Yeah, so we actually started, it's an interesting story. We started in the late 60s and early 70s, and a group of business leaders here in Sioux Falls worked with Senator Carl Mundt, no relation to me.
You could say it, and people would believe it. No one's going to get hurt.
No relation to me. We had the opportunity to, at that, have Eros Data Center here in Sioux Falls. And so a group of leaders got together. They made a pitch for the Eros Data Center. They needed free land, and so there was some money that was raised to buy property north of town where Eros Data Center is now. At the time, I think they were looking to buy 20 or 25 acres. That turned into about 150 acres that they needed, and so they bought that property, and then Eros, over time, bought that property back from them, and so that created the fund of money that the Development Foundation then used to continue to buy its first industrial park. So they filled that, they took the proceeds from that, bought number two, and just kept rolling it over. So in 2016-17, they bought Foundation Park through a number of different financing mechanisms and put that package together. And once they had the land available, then they were able to organize. And again, this is another testament to the partnerships in Sioux Falls. They were able to put together a consortium of 8 banks that raised $16 million, so $2 million per bank line of credit for us to be able to borrow from that line of credit to put in the roads, the infrastructure that we needed to entice and what they call make the site, make it site ready or build ready.
Yep.
So then we could go out to prospects, site selectors, brokers, and say, we have property here. We can give you as much as 200 acres. It's serviced by all the utilities. It has streets. It has everything that you need to be able to stick a shovel in the ground tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of prep work. So they can come construction basically right after they purchase the property and start their construction process. So time to market became very important at that time. So with distribution facilities and manufacturing facilities, as you know, the quicker you can get the job done, the better off that they're going to be. And so that was an advantage that we had over many of our competitors.
Yeah. So how many acres are left in Foundation Park?
We have roughly 350 acres left.
And how much is it? 1,200 acres? What did you say?
We have less in Foundation Park, so 350 is about our total inventory. We have also some ground to the east of Foundation Park across I-29. We've got about 110 acres there. We've got about 100 acres in what we call Sioux Empire Park East, and that's in the northeast corner of Sioux Falls.
Okay. So
in Foundation Park, we have probably 200 acres maybe available in Foundation Park.
Well, that's pretty cool. Like, look at everything that your team has done in 8 years. I had to do math for a second. I was like, 2018.
Yeah, it's
like, that's a lot.
It's been a whirlwind.
Because you think about like just construction projects alone, that sales cycle. I say that like for me, my sales cycle is so long.
Yeah.
It starts with a phone call or an introduction, or a relationship, a referral, whatever, and then it has to go from there to the shovel in the ground to handing the keys over. Like it's a long process. And the fact that you have, 70% of it or more filled up is pretty impressive.
We were pretty lean in the early years, in 2018, 19, 20. But we did a lot of marketing. We did a lot of cold calling and those types of things. And finally, it started to kind of roll. The momentum started to roll. And so then we got the TIF was passed for Foundation Park North, where we captured their increment from Amazon, and we were able to build out North Foundation Park, which got us CJ Schwann's, which started that ball rolling, and we were able to complete that particular section. And in between there, we had COVID, and so during COVID, we actually our activity didn't let up at all. We were able to basically continue to market our products, and companies were pretty interested at that time in looking at our property because they knew that once COVID was over that they would have a rush of business and activity. So they were really looking for that kind of thing. And we really had a rush in warehousing and distribution because I think COVID taught people that just-in-time inventory wasn't necessarily a good thing. When that hit, they were having trouble getting their supplies in. They were having trouble getting their products, back in and out of the market. And so I think now we see a lot of our companies that have warehouses that are very close to them that can now function. Even if you were to have a drop in something over a couple month period, they still have enough in inventory that they can do that. So interesting learning curve there after that. And then you had some supply chain issues and transportation issues that you dealt with. So, even during that time, we've been pretty successful in filling up the park. And now again, with Smithfield's move, they take 210 acres. So that was a big chunk of ground that has left our inventory. And so now we're looking to, maybe some smaller projects that can fill in on some of those smaller lots.
Yeah, or like where to next.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what has been your most challenging, placement as far as, getting a company in there? Was it Smithfield? Was that the most challenging, or was it kind of one of those first ones that you had to get in there?
I'd say our most challenging one was CJ Schwann's.
Okay.
Not because of CJ Schwann's. It's just the timing of that right before COVID, the commitment that we made to it. We had to wait for COVID. We had to wait for some supply chain issues. We had to wait for some approvals from South Korea, those types of things.
That's where it's based out of?
Their parent company, yeah. And so all those things kind of complicated that process. So, that was a kind of a stop again, start again type of a deal. And so that was frustrating in a way, but we couldn't do anything about it, because of the situation. So again, it doesn't reflect poorly on anyone. It's just that was what happened. And so during that time, when we were trying to continue to sell property, we didn't know what was going to happen with that one. And so we were kind of up in the air as to how much land we really had available. We had committed ourselves to building out the infrastructure there already. We had committed ourselves to the tax base that we needed to have there. And so we were kind of in that commitment stage, but, never getting married type of thing.
Yeah.
so that would have to be probably my most challenging.
Yeah. So you had mentioned earlier that your dad worked at John Morrell?
For a while, my dad and several of my uncles and cousins,
Yeah, and John Morrell, now Smithfield, has such a huge piece of history, I would say, in this town, just creating thousands of jobs over many decades. Obviously, they have outgrown the spot that they're in, which you've helped facilitate them moving to Foundation Park. And I just wanted to say I've seen how you have navigated that within the community, within smaller and the larger communities, with business leaders, with the political oversight too. And I just want to commend you for how you have handled it, because you have done it with grace and you have been fair, I believe, and you've really been collaborative with everyone that's been involved. Just from my small fly on the wall experiences of observation, because it was a big deal. It still is a big deal, but it's, to be able to handle that the way you did, I just think you did a very good job.
Well,
it's still ongoing.
I appreciate that.
But, I think how you handle things and how you handle yourself with anybody, it speaks volumes, and people will remember how you treated them. So
Sure.
I think people think
Well,
that
thank
about you, how you
Very
treat
nice of you.
them.
I appreciate that.
Wow.
Yeah, Smithfield was very challenging, but that's my adrenaline. That's what keeps me coming back to work every day is solving those issues. And I have to say, we had so many partners in the Smithfield deal. The State Department of Economic Development, just great to work with. Bill Even and his team, and Mayor Ten Haken has just been a godsend during this time, and
For sure.
being able to lead in the public effort, but then his team of department heads that have worked with us, Mark Cotter, Jeff Eckhoff, Sean Pritchett. I mean, all of those people and their teams. Public Works, amazing people there. I mean, if you ever have a chance to work with them on that basis, amazing people there, smart people wanting to find solutions, never getting caught up on, oh, we can't do that, but how can we do that types of thinking. And so from that perspective, it was absolutely a team effort. And quite frankly, Smithfield, they were committed to this project. They they had to get approval from their ownership, which at this time in South Dakota is controversial, right? So, I mean, they had to get approval from their ownership. They had to work with their engineers and their attorneys and all of their people to make sure that they could do this, and all at the same time keep their operations running where they're at, and dispel any myths and control the rumor mill, and they have stockholders that they have to make sure don't get out ahead of their stockholders and those types of things. So it was extremely sensitive, but there were literally dozens of people involved in all of this. So Thank you for the credit, but that credit is spread out amongst all of those people.
Oh, for sure.
It's just those are the types of projects that I live for. And not that I don't like them all. It's just that one had so many moving parts, and still does, quite frankly. But that's what's fun. That's what keeps you coming back.
Yeah, that one had a lot of nuances.
Yeah.
So one of the things I was going to ask you was, like, do you have a favorite part of your job? And it sounds like really problem solving and being challenged and helping find solutions with a team.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a big piece of it?
That's part of it. But you mentioned something earlier too. First of all, the people that I get to work with, 95% of them are very positive.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're working with somebody, they're positive people. They appreciate growth and development, and they appreciate finding solutions to projects and issues and those types of things. Coming to work every day knowing you're going to work with those kind of people kind of makes it pretty easy to come to work. So, I mean, those are the types of things that I really enjoy. I also enjoy knowing things before anybody else does.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so, but the bad part of that is you can't say anything. So, like at our breakfast group, for example, we start talking about stuff, and I'm like, okay, I know I could say a whole bunch of stuff here, but I can't say it, so I'm not going to. So, but it's fun listening to people talk about it, and it's fun listening to people, have ideas about what it is and how it's going to work and those types of things. But it's just fun knowing what I know before other people do, and not because I want to, boast about it, but just because I'm like, yeah, I know a little bit about that, And so it's just kind of fun to be able to have that knowledge, and then in the end, when it all comes out, to be able to say, yeah, it came out in a good way.
Yeah. I would say not near to the extent of you finding out fun tidbits, but even me being involved in the chamber as a volunteer ambassador, there's a lot that I feel like I hear about development in the city or what's coming up, or even like, we get reports from Mitch Rave, who is one of the policy guys at the chamber. That's not his title, but he's the policy
VP,
guy.
VP of Public Policy, yeah.
There you go.
Everybody has a guy, right?
Yeah. Got a guy for everything. He comes to our ambassador committee meetings at least 2-3 times a year, because we have them every month, and he fills us in, and it's a very detailed report. And then we learn a lot of things that go on at the legislative session that, I mean, maybe it's published somewhere, but we're kind of getting the behind the scenes. And so I feel like I get a little bit of an idea of what's going on. Just
and I think you do in the construction industry too, because a lot of times,
yes,
a company will come to you first and say, hey, I want to build a new building. I don't have a location yet. I want to build a new building. And so in those cases, before we do. And so somebody like yourself might come to me and say, Bob, we need 20 acres. We've got a company that we're working with that needs to build 200,000 square feet. Can you show us some property? So in that case, before I do what the company's looking for.
And I would say even a step further would be like the engineering firms that do like the site testing and the soil samples and stuff. They truly are like the ones who find out about it first. And sometimes I'm like, because we have relationships with them, I'm like, hey, so can you let them know? We'd love to take a look at their price. Like, I can't do that, Jessica.
Well, and many engineering firms, for example, have site selector divisions within their engineering firm, the larger ones. And so those site selectors are able to find a site, and then they utilize their engineering firm to go and evaluate the site for civic infrastructure and those types of things. They may also be a part of an accounting firm, because the accounting firm then works with the companies to make sure that all their incentives are in place and things like that. So a lot of times we'll work with site selectors, but they're actually part of a larger accounting firm, or a Burns and Mac group out of Kansas City or whatever. So again, who we work with, a lot of times they know before we do.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to ask you, like you said, Forward Sioux Falls is the financial piece of how you can continue to move forward on projects, but how do people get involved, or at least educated, on what's going on? But maybe they want to have a piece of that too. They want to give fiscally and not just time and attention.
Yeah, I mean, we're not like the chamber. We don't have a lot of committees that we operate from. We basically have 3 committees. One is our land development committee, which advises us on how to develop land and where to develop land and what we need to do on those. But they're also our real estate people. And so when we get an offer in on property, they work with us to figure out whether or not that's a good deal or not, decide whether or not we're actually going to sell them the property. And then part of that deal is that company has to then present to us their designs for the building, for the site, those types of things, so that we can check it against our covenants and against city code. And so that's what that real estate committee does. We also have a finance committee. So whenever we make a sale, or whenever we buy something, we run all that through the finance committee, and they make sure that all of our finances are in order, and then they report back up to the executive board. And then our last group that we would have would be our talent and workforce committee, and they get together and really work through our talent and workforce offerings and what we're doing through talent and workforce. So those are the 3 that we have right now. We don't have a lot of outside committees that people can serve on, but they then report up to our executive board, and then the executive board is kind of the governing body of the full board. So,
but people can give to Forward Sioux Falls.
Absolutely, people give to Forward Sioux Falls, and then that money through the Joint Venture Management Committee, which is my 5 executive board members, the Chamber's 5 executive board members, and then 5 at-large members. They're the ones who really determine from the feasibility study that we do prior to each one of our campaigns where that money goes. And so some of it might go to the Development Foundation, some of it goes to the Chamber, some of it might go to other partner organizations in the community that are doing things that are building the community. For example, it may go to Startup Sioux Falls, or it may go to the Discovery District, or it may go to SDSU Metro Center. So things that contribute to our mission as both a chamber and a development foundation that build Sioux Falls in a positive way. So again, throughout the years, Forward Sioux Falls has contributed to Good Earth State Park.
We just did a project there.
Yep, they've contributed to riverfront development. They did some downtown projects, streetscapes, things like that. So all economic development related. And so we get some of our funding from them, We get some of our funding directly from the city to do certain services for the city. So we're kind of the economic development arm of the city. And then we get money basically from the sale of our property. So on the sale of our property, that goes in, all goes into our land development fund, and that's what we use to buy additional property at a given point in time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's an opportunity to have another mega park? Is there room?
Yeah.
Where is it?
We don't know at this point where it is, or even if it's a mega park. We're kind of batting around some ideas right now. Is it better to go with another 1,000-acre park, or is it better to go with 4 or 5 250-acre parks?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're batting around right now. The issue that we run into, Jessica, is that we work hand in hand with the city when it comes to development parks, because the infrastructure has to be there. If we don't have sewer and water, we don't have anything. We can put in roads, we can put in streets, those types of things. But if we don't have sewer and we don't have water, we can't have any development out there. So we have to kind of grow with the city. So taking a look at where is the city putting in its next trunk line sewer? Where is the city putting in its next main arterial? Where is the city putting in its next water main? So that we can tap into all that. And then we compete with the residential and commercial area as well, because they're also asking those same questions, right? So we usually, when we buy ground, it is designated as industrial. We don't want to compete with our commercial real estate market. We don't want to compete with private developers. And so we're kind of in a niche. And so when we buy property, it's usually large tracts of property, and that's becoming harder and harder to find.
Yeah, because you think about just even some of the, I don't know if terrain is the right word, but the terrain around us, like, when you go east, it gets more hilly and there's the river. But you, like you said, you're competing with like residential areas, so you don't necessarily want to make certain parts of the town that are growing residentially even more industrial. And I'm kind of thinking like that northwest side, or just the west side in general, because that's growing quite a bit residentially. So you don't necessarily want to tack that on. But like you said, where is there going to be water? Where is there going to be sewer? Yeah. And is it logistically appealing? For
I tell you, I've learned more about sewer than I ever wanted to know.
Wastewater seems to be like a big issue.
It's huge. Yeah, if you can't deal with your wastewater, again, but there's a certain geological piece of that where it has to flow as opposed to being pumped. And so, you have to look at how deep is your sewer line, where does it start, what's the slope, can it flow, what they call gravity flow, right?
Yeah.
Or does it have to be pumped? And if it has to be pumped, then there's a lot more cost
requires
to it.
Energy.
Things like that requires energy, those types of things. And so the main trunk lines are usually ones that flow to a certain pump point, and then they're pumped to the sewer treatment station. So again, all of that has to go into, do we want to do another mega park, and can we do another mega park? Do we have the ground, and do we have the infrastructure capacity to do it?
Yeah. So do you think there's any like misconceptions about the Development Foundation or what they do? Or like do you think most people kind of have an idea?
I do and I don't.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think we're part of the city, which
and you're like a part of like everything. I feel like
and so
you've mentioned so many different partners that you're like
people think we build buildings and we don't. Again, we don't want to compete with the private sector in that particular area. I think some people believe that or don't know, I should say, that we also do workforce development. And so, again, about half of what we do is considered, workforce development, those types of things. So people will sometimes ask the question, well, who's doing the workforce development piece of that? People a lot of times will think we're part of the chamber, and we're not. Again, funded differently, different work, different mission, those types of things. Some people, again, think that we're, we go out to Beersford and places like that. We don't. We work with the Sioux Metro Growth Alliance on that piece of it. We provide expertise on those particular areas. We have some resources that we can use that, we're very willing and able to help out some of our other communities around us with their growth and development plans if they're willing to do that, right? So again, trying to let them know that economic development is a regional thing and we want to help where we can. We don't want to step on toes. We don't want to force ourselves upon them. But at the same time, we want them to know that we're here to help them if we can.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to, at the end of the day, when you go home, to like kind of disconnect yourself a little bit? Or you feel like your mind is always working a little bit? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to shut your brain off sometimes from work, but what you do is so like forward facing with the entire community that it's like, can you step away from it? Can you go on vacation?
That's a bad.
Can you visit your kids?
I can't believe you just asked that question.
Is your wife asking to go on vacation or what?
Well, my wife and I have been married for 40 plus years. It's just, and she knows me now. She knows I can't turn it off. When I come home, I have a hard time turning it off. I have a hard time not talking about it. When we travel around Sioux Falls, I'm always pointing out things that she really doesn't care about.
She's like, okay.
Yeah, when we go visit other, she looks at things. I look at things totally differently, and I look at how many cranes are there in the air. I look at where the dirt's moving. I look at traffic patterns. I look at really boring stuff like that.
It's not boring to you.
Yeah, and she knows that. So at some point in time, she'll say to me, turn off your work brain and let's talk about something else. And so we do that. So it takes me a day or two to maybe turn that off. But once we get on vacation, I usually try to be where I am and kind of make do. But, with technology, with cell phones and things like that, it's really hard not to check your emails.
It is.
It's hard not to get, text messages and things like that. So you really have to kind of put that aside and just say, I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to do that. And I'm getting better at that. I used to be really bad at it. But again, I've got a good staff that knows what they're doing, can get along without me. So again, getting better at that. But as I get older, I'm thinking to myself, it's probably time I do more of that.
Yeah. Well, and, this made me think when you're like, well, when I go to other cities, like I notice certain things, like I've heard this before, and we talked about it in Leadership Sioux Falls when I was in class of 39 a year ago. We talked about, in one of our first sessions, the growth of Sioux City and the growth of Sioux Falls. Yeah. And I didn't realize that you had spent some of your career in Sioux City. So now, like, if you go to Sioux City, are you like, what thoughts do you have, or what feelings do you have? Like, are you a little bummed out for him? That maybe we didn't have that same growth trajectory at the same time. Like, could they have? Do you think?
Yeah, I think they could have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back in The Tale of Two Cities, the book of the 80s, when both cities were at that 80,000 level, and now Sioux City is still at that 85 to 90,000 level, and we're at, 300 or whatever. I look at that and I think, Sioux City could have done that. A little bit different situation. They're at the intersection of 3 states. So they got basically 3 different communities. Yep. Totally different taxing states, between South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. 3 very different taxing systems that they have there. And then I look at Sioux Falls, and it's a community in and of itself, able to do what they need to do, right, in one state, one city council, those types of things. And so I think that's an advantage. But I do give credit to Forward Sioux Falls. What they did back in the 80s with Forward Sioux Falls in 1985, 86, when they started that first one, is to really develop a mindset that they were going to be a community that worked together, irregardless of who benefited from it, to make the community better. And they have stuck to that over 40 years. And it has shown the results. Banks compete every day for banking business, but when it comes to Forward Sioux Falls, they're all in it together. They want growth because they understand that unified growth is going to help their business as well. And the investors in Forward Sioux Falls, most of them, not all of them, understand that concept, and that you may not get anything directly from it, but indirectly you're going to get a community that is progressive, that is aggressive, that's growing, and that will hopefully contribute to your bottom line as well.
Yeah, it's great for businesses, and I look at it. I've got young kids. I think about it from a raising a family perspective. The amenities that we have, for families, our healthcare systems, our educational systems, we offer so much, and you can't really get that as much if you don't have that forward-minded growth perspective and drive as a community. So from a perspective as a mother, I'm very happy for the growth, just for the opportunities it's provided for my kids too.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of, again, Sioux Falls, and the bottom line for what we do is we want to make it so that our companies are profitable, so that they can contribute to the quality of life, right?
Yeah.
So that they can be the philanthropic people that we need them to be, and give back to the United Way, and contribute to the schools, and contribute to, our parks and recreation systems and things like that, because quality of life is huge. And,
Yeah.
and when you're looking at recruiting a company, that and education and housing are becoming kind of the three top things. Even incentives aren't necessarily as important as that anymore. They want to know, are their workers going to be well cared for here? Is the quality of life something that they're going to be able to buy into? And is it going to be a community that they're going to tell their friends to come to, right? So that's where the quality of life comes in so heavy here, is that, we have good cultural events, we have good entertainment, we have good recreation, we have a very, very vital and active downtown, where people can come and hang out and be safe and enjoy good restaurants and good shopping and good concerts and those types of things, and don't have to go somewhere else to do that.
Yeah. No, I think we're kind of becoming a destination spot in some sense for a lot of people, which is cool.
Yeah. Our expansion at our airport.
I know.
What a huge thing. Getting people in and out of this community is going to pay dividends 100 years into the future.
And there's 3 phases to that, right?
I think so. Yeah. But all the phases are funded now, so which is great.
Yeah.
There's the expansion of the gates, and then there's the kind of the common ticketing area, those types of things, and then last phase of that would be an international
Customs?
gate,
Yes.
which would be able to have international flights, which is great.
When do you think phase 3 is going to be here? Can't wait.
Well, I think sooner than we think.
Really?
I think so. Yeah, I think there's a pretty big demand for it, and I think I can't give you a time, but
think of all the snowbirds. Like, think of how many people go south of the border January, February, March.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah,
like so many people.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that. We really needed it. There's always growing pains, but if you can get things moving at the state level, I think that's kind of the tough spot, is things can get halted pretty easily there. Yeah. But no, I was very happy to hear about that.
Yeah, good stuff.
What is something you're looking forward to? Could be professional, could be personal, could be you can't wait to start working on your yard, anything.
I love summers. So the immediate I can't wait for is being able to be outside, working off my frustrations, right, in the yard. Those types of things, being able to, go to concerts outside, being able to sit outside and have lunch or breakfast or dinner. I love being outside. And so anything I can do to do that. I like going to baseball games, those types of things. So I really look forward to the summer months here. I look forward to really kicking off the next phase of Forward Sioux Falls campaign, the actual implementation of what we want to do over the next 5 years.
And that starts?
That actually started April 1st. We'll have our official kickoff at the end of this month on the 29th. And so that's when we start kind of really pushing some of the stuff that's in there. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about, the Smithfield project, the next, 3 or 4 years and what that leads up to. I'm excited about the CJ Schwann's opening, those types of things. Probably 2027.
Okay.
Maybe later in 2027. So we're excited about that. I think, just looking even 5 years down the road here, just with all the changes that we've started now and we'll see the results of then, for example, the Veterans Highway being completed and the 85th Street interchange being completed and what that means for down there. The developments in Foundation Park being completed, seeing all that stuff and knowing that, I had a hand in it from the very beginning, seeing it all completed, that's very rewarding to me. So that's kind of what I look forward to every day. And again, it's why I get up every day, is I like doing what I do and I like the people I work with. So
you have a lot to look forward to.
I do.
Even just the little things about being outside. No, I totally agree. We have a screened-in porch, and we love to sit out there and have our meals. I mean, any excuse to sit on the patio furniture outside. Last time I talked to you was we were approaching March Madness, and you're like, it's going to be so nice outside. I think I'm just going to set the TVs up in the porch so I can be outside but still watch the games. I'm like, that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, we did that. I had to have a jacket on when I sat out there and did that, but I did do that. I'm a huge basketball fan, as you know, and so that was kind of, that finals weekend was kind of a sad weekend for me because it was the end of basketball as I know it for another year. And so, but now we've got the great weather out here, and, we start taking in track and baseball and some of the other sports. And so it's a good time of year for me.
It is. Yeah. Okay. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
I want to know if you have a vice, but I also want to guess what it is before you tell me.
All right.
Is it Pepsi? Diet Pepsi? Coke?
So it
Dr.
used
Pepper.
to be. As I get a little older, my doctor kept telling me I needed to drop the Pepsi thing and come up with another solution. So I
was right. What's the solution?
It was my vice. I still have a couple maybe on Friday mornings in my breakfast group. But for the most part, I've given up Pepsi and I've graduated to the bubblers.
Okay.
So I have the bubblers.
What is your favorite flavor?
I like the orange.
The cream soda one?
Cream soda one. It tastes like orange sherbet ice cream, and that's my favorite. So
I also really like bubblers. I found if you, I don't think they have the orange one at Costco, but it comes to, if you buy the 12 pack from Costco, or 18 pack, it comes down to like $1 a can.
$1 a can.
Yeah. So
as opposed to $2.79 for a Pepsi.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like, I think it's called Pitaya, something berry nectar, the pink one.
The pink one, yeah.
My son really likes the purple one. I can't remember the name of that one either, but no, I like bubblers. And it's like the caffeine is about the equivalent of a cup of coffee.
Yep. And there's another one called Aspire. And Aspire is even a little bit lower in caffeine and calorie count.
I've never heard of that one.
It's harder to find.
I see a lot of people drinking Alani. And those are so sweet.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
I've had one of those and I would echo that.
I couldn't finish it.
It's like drinking candy. I just can't do that.
So that's a really good thing for people to, if they listen to this, if you want, like if they want to give you something, just like, hey, thinking of you, hope you're having a great day, a 6-pack of the orange creamsicle bubblers.
You can give me any bubblers and I would be happy.
They're pretty good. So you still do your Pepsi on Friday mornings on occasion.
I'm trying to wean myself off that as well. And, honestly, it doesn't taste nearly as good as it used to. So a lot more
good
sugary. And I can tell right now that it's more sugary than what I'm drinking now.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, so I do like bubbler. I would probably, if I want something like cold and bubbly, that's what I prefer.
Yeah.
But I did grab a Diet Coke this afternoon. Sometimes I fall off the wagon. Good.
I do that too.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so I meant to do this at the beginning, and apparently I'm having an issue remembering to do this, but I did give you a list of icebreakers. We already broke the ice, but I think they're pretty fun questions, and you can answer more than one of them.
Okay.
So, which one did you want to answer?
Are you going to ask them or are you just
Okay. So, what was your very first job? What's the weirdest meal or food you've had? What famous person might you invite over for dinner and why? I already asked you, what's one thing you're looking forward to? So never mind on that one. Or the best concert or festival you've been to. And you can answer all of them if you want. It's up to you.
I'll shoot for all of them very briefly. Okay. So my very first job was outside of mowing lawns and walking beans, was working in a grocery store. So I was the carry-out boy at the local grocery store.
Does Fairway still do that?
Store, so.
Do you know Fairway still does that? Do they bring the groceries out?
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, that's great. Especially if...
There is no Fairway close to me. I would totally be on board with it, but it's just like none.
Yeah, it's great to have them do that.
Yeah.
And I even have them do it just because they want to go outside, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
So, and they've got a lot of young kids there. I just love talking to the young kids.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weirdest meal or food that I've had, I'm pretty common. I don't go out on a limb very often and try new food, but I had escargot at one point in time, so that has to be probably the weirdest, and I did not like it.
That's snails, right?
Yeah. And I think it was a mental thing. I realized what I was eating, and I was just kind of like, I can't do that.
I had Monica Rilling in here earlier with Habitat, and she told me that her mom made cow tongue once, but she like boiled it and just cut it up into cubes and was like, you want to try it? And she like couldn't get past knowing what it was, but it was like really hard. And I guess they fed it to their dogs, but she was like, you can try it if you want. She's like, never again.
Living on a farm, we had that as well.
Yeah.
If you put enough salt on it, it really tastes good. So.
That's probably everything, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. A famous person you might invite over for dinner, and why?
I struggle with that one just because there's so many.
It's hard to narrow it down.
That I'd love to have, a conversation with, but I'm a fairly big fan of music, and I'd love to have a conversation with Elton John. Just because of the experiences that he's had and the successful career that he's had and the ups and downs that he's had and the longevity of his success, tremendous individual.
He seems like a really interesting person too.
Yeah.
A little quirky. That's a good one.
Yeah, a little bit.
Best concert or festival you've been to?
So back to Elton John, when we were in Omaha, we went to a concert with Elton John and Billy Joel.
Oh,
and
wow.
They played for 3.5 hours nonstop.
This was in Omaha, is that what you said?
This was in Omaha at the convention or the arena down there. So they came on together. Then Billy Joel walked off stage and Elton John played 4 or 5 songs. And then he went off and Billy Joel came on and he played 4 or 5 songs. And then they both came on again and played songs together. And then they did that same routine 3 different times.
And there was no like intermission or whatever.
No intermission. So it was constant.
No potty breaks.
Well, it was for me. But just constant music. So no intermission, just no anything else. They just no warm up bands, no nothing. They came out from the beginning. They played for 3.5 hours.
When was this?
Amazing. Oh gosh, I would say 2005.
Okay.
2006.
That's cool.
Not that long ago.
I do feel like there's a lot of warm up bands for concerts now.
Yeah.
And it's like then they don't start till 9. Like the headliner doesn't start till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And you're like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. And it's hard to enjoy, the headliner when you've been listening to 2 other bands and you're kind of tuning out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like, do you even bother going until the headliner starts?
Right. Yeah.
Although I have found a couple bands that way that I really, really enjoy, probably more than the headliner, that I discovered, because they were like the warm-up band, and now I listen to their music. So I'm not saying it's like a waste, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting older that I'm just like, why is the headliner starting so late?
There was a time when Taylor Swift was a warm-up, right?
Yeah.
And now look at her, right?
Now she's like ruling the world.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anything else we should know, Bob?
No, I'm really committed to Sioux Falls. I love this community, and I love what I do. People I work with, friends that I have. It's just a great place for me to be at this point in my life. So thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation with you.
We're very lucky to have you here.
Well,
so thanks for coming.
Thank you.